Hello, my name is Marie and this is Booksville and this is my January wrap-up. I have 17 books. Yes, you heard that right. I'm crushing it so far this year. To be fair, 7 of which I had to read for my dissertation and 2 were suggested by my teacher to read for my politics class, and only 8 were fun. But I'm counting the school books because I read the whole entire book, so it counts. Also, my goal for the whole year is only 50 books because I've been struggling to do that for the past few years. I'm like really well on track right now. Like, I'm doing so well. I am so proud of myself. Because despite the fact that I've had so much dissertation work to do and schoolwork, I've also actually read fun books too. Okay, so the wrap up. I'm going to split it up into 2 sections. I'm going to do the fun books, then the school books. I know no one really cares much about the school books, but because I read them, I thought I would include them, so I'm gonna. Okay, so to start at the beginning. First, I read The Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennet by Bernie Sue and Kate Rorick. I love Pride and Prejudice, and I love the web series of the Lizzie Bennet diaries, and this book does not disappoint. It's not quite as good as the web series, but it's still a really good Pride and Prejudice retelling, and yeah. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend it for anyone who loves Pride and Prejudice and or who have seen the web series. And if you haven't seen the web series, why not? It's so good. Please go watch it. So yeah, I think I gave it 5 stars as well, which, I mean, I do give books 5 stars if I really love them, but it doesn't happen all that often. So yeah, 5-star book. Next I read The Grand Tour, Travelling the World with an Architect's Eye by Harry Slider-ish, I think, maybe. It basically is just what it says. It's just like a photo book. Oh, that was a good example. I'm not sure what wooden this is, but it's funky looking. Yeah, the guy who did this is an architect who likes to take photos, and it's really sad on some of them because like Canada only has 1 photo, but at the same time, like places like Egypt have loads of architecture photos and it's stuff that you wouldn't necessarily normally see. So I did really enjoy this book. If you like architecture, I suggest you pick it up because it was very good. Next I have a Gemina, part 2 of the Illuminae Files by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. And I love this book. It is probably one of the best second in the series that I've ever read, and I am so excited for the 3rd one. I think it's called Obsidian or something like that, to come out in March. Oh my gosh, this book was just so good. I love how the story is told in, like the title suggests, files, and like a very unique way to tell a story, but it feels very authentic at the same time, and I just love that, and I love the story, and yeah, it was another 5-star read for me. Next, I finally finished 1984 by George Orwell. It's taken me months, literally months, but it was good. The second half picked up, I think, which is why I read it, like finished it quite quickly. I'm not sure, but yeah, I did enjoy it. It's not my favourite book. I think I prefer Animal Farm by him, but it's a very interesting take on a dystopian future, and I did really enjoy it, and the political scientist in me couldn't help but like analyse it and compare it with different events in history and now, and yeah, so it was really good, and it's definitely a classic that I will probably read again. Next I have a fun little book that I borrowed from my flatmate Evie. It's adorable and I just picked it up when I needed like a hour break from doing dissertation work, and it is Speaking in Tongues, Curious Expressions from Around the World by Ella Frances Sanders. And this is, like I said, a very cute short book. Each page has got a picture with a curious expression, normally in a different language at the top, and then its translation in English, and then it explains the language and what the curious expression means on the other side. Like, one of my favourite ones is about an octopus in a garage. It's quite funny. Yes, here it is. It's to feel like an octopus in a garage. It's Spanish, and it basically means to be confused or unsure, and it just made me chuckle. Next I have the one and only graphic novel of this month, and it is DC's Arrow Volume 1 by Mark Guggenheim, Andrew Kreisberg and Mike Grill. I love graphic novels and I really love the TV show Arrow, so when I saw this ages ago. I had to pick it up. I haven't got around to reading it until now, but it did not disappoint. It was really, really good. I loved the artwork. I loved all the action. Just a really good graphic novel. And another 5-star read from me. Next I have another Pride and Prejudice retelling, and it is President Darcy by Victoria Kincaid. And it's very, very fluffy and very, very... no, I think fluffy pretty much sums it up. But it's really good. It's written a bit like fan fiction, which I know puts a lot of people off. But it's really good fan fiction. Yeah, I really loved it. I'm glad I picked it up. I'm glad I read it. I think I gave it 5 stars. I have a few minor issues with like grammar, like if I can tell the grammar's wrong then it's wrong, but there was only like 1 or 2 sentences that had bad grammar, and then there was a couple of sentences that didn't have the quotation marks. There was like one that didn't have quotation marks at the beginning or the end, and then there was one that didn't have the quotation marks at the end of the sentence, which confused me slightly when I was reading it. Other than that, it was a really good book, and if you like Pride and Prejudice and like reading modern day retellings, I would recommend this book. Lastly, for the fun books, I read The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And oh my god, this book. Like when I finished it, I was literally doing this. It is such a good book. It is both happy and sad and hopeful and heartbreaking, and oh, it was so good. It's my favourite book of the year so far. Definitely 5 stars. It was so good. It's middle grade and it's got pictures and stuff in it because it's laid out like a diary. It tackles a lot of Native American issues, from alcoholism to abuse to poverty, and it does it through the point of view of a 14-year-old boy, Junior, who is also physically and kind of mentally disabled. He was born with like too much fluid on his brain, so he has like really big hands and really big feet and like a really big head, and he talks with a stutter, and yeah, but it was so good. Read it. Lastly, for the fun books, I may have already said that, there's this book, The Promise of Amazing. I said I was going to read it. I didn't. I started it, didn't finish it. Next I am moving on to the school books that I read, so please feel free to watch, but also if you don't want to, please turn it off. Like, no obligation to watch this part, I just thought I would include them because I'm nerdy. Okay, first I have these 2 books. These are political science books. Well, they're not, they're classics, technically, both of them. But I picked them up for one of my political science classes. I have The Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Frederick Engels, and I have Common Sense by Thomas Paine. Neither of them were as bad as I was expecting them to be. But saying that, they were also school books, so they weren't like, woo, excitement. Like, I probably wouldn't have read them if my teacher hadn't suggested it. I'm glad I read the Karl Marx one though, because Marx is someone that confuses me very much. Like all the anthropology and politics journals tend to take his words, add like 10 doses of confusing, and then they're done. So it was nice knowing the original opposed to just the confusing, and I'm very glad I read it. But in terms of school books, it was just okay. It wasn't like one of my favourite school books I've ever read or anything, it was just useful and okay. Then Common Sense by Thomas Paine. As school books go, I quite enjoyed this one. It was very interesting to learn the social and historical context of the US at that time, because I'm English, and while I've had some classes in American history, it was Native American history, so I didn't know much about, I don't know, colonizers' history, I guess you would say. But yeah, it was very interesting, and yeah. Although I can't read the title Common Sense by Thomas Paine without mentally singing Hamilton every time, though I'm not sure that's a problem. Next I have a ton of anthropology textbooks, and yes, most of them are as boring as they look, but as you can tell, I had to put lots of stickies in, so I did actually use them and read them properly and intensely and everything. I have Anthropology, a Graphic Guide by Merrill, Wynne, Davis and Pedro? I don't know. If you are curious about anthropology, I recommend that you pick this up. It's just like a fun, it's basically what it says on the tin, it's a graphic guide to all things anthropological. Yeah. Next I have Social and Cultural Anthropology, a very short introduction by Monaghan and Just. Again, lots of things in it. If you're interested in anthropology, I would recommend that you read this. I've read it multiple times. It was required reading when I was at college and I was doing anthropology, and then when I got to university it was like suggested that you pick it up, and having already read it I knew it was useful, so I did pick it up, and yeah. So if you're interested in anthropology, definitely recommend reading it. Next I have An Introduction to Anthropology Theory by Robert Layton. Yes, it is quite boring. Theory in anthropology is confusing and boring. Everyone who does anthropology knows this. But this is another book that was required reading when I was at college, and when I started university I was like, hey, that's probably interesting. So I picked it up. Secondhand, it's got like other people's highlighting and stuff in it. But yeah, definitely worth the money. So if you are studying anthropology or thinking of studying anthropology, definitely pick this one up. Next I have a required reading for my first year anthropology class, and it is Social Anthropology, Investigating Human Social Life by Professor Alan Bernard. And it's just a very simple, quick overview of concepts and theories. Again, if you are taking anthropology at the beginning or just want to know more about anthropology, this is a very good book to read. It's very concise, it's not very big, and everything in it is really well explained, but very concisely as well. Next I have another anthropology book! It is An Introduction to Social Anthropology, Sharing Our World, 2nd edition by Joy Henry. This was another required reading for one of my first year classes, and it's more in depth than all the others. There's like a lot more words and a lot less pictures, and it's a lot chunkier and a lot bigger. But yeah, it's a very, very good overview if you are already studying anthropology and you need an overview book. This is very good. And as you've probably noticed, most of those books are introduction books. And yes, I am writing my dissertation. And no, I'm not just using introduction books, but my dissertation supervisor suggested that I read the introductory books just to familiarise myself with all the theories, and then I can apply them and read journals and more in-depth books and everything, and it was very good advice. So if you do anthropology politics, I recommend using that advice. It was very helpful because you can't keep everything in your brain at once, and just reading like the title of a theory makes you go, oh yeah, and this connects to this and this and this and this. Yeah, so it was very, very helpful. Also, a lot of anthropology stuff doesn't give basic definitions of things when you get to like a higher level, so it was very good to go back to the basics and know, hey, this is the bog standard definition of this, without it applying too much. So yeah, it was really good. Next I have two slightly more in-depth books. I have The Gift, The Form and Reason for Exchange in Archaic Societies by Marcel and Mauss. This is a staple if you do any type of anthropology. It's I think it's translated from French. I'm fairly certain it's translated from French or German, but I think it's French, yes. It's translated from French, and yeah, it's an anthropological staple. So if you're an anthropology student and you haven't heard of this book, you may want to look it up. But yes, it's very good. Next I have another more in-depth book, and it's a bunch of like different authors coming together to write different chapters. Some of them are taken from like articles and stuff, and it is The Social Life of Things, Commodities and Cultural Perspective, that's edited by, that's a name, wait a sec, Arjan Abadari. Yes, but if you're doing anything like museum studies or anything, like last semester I did a museum studies class and this was mentioned multiple times. It comes up a lot in like museum textbooks and stuff and journals, so it seemed natural, since I was doing a dissertation about museums, that I should probably pick it up. And as you can tell, I found quite a few useful bits in it. Okay, so those are all the books that I read in January. Thank you so much for watching. I hope January was a good reading month for you guys too. Please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd wish, leave a comment, and I will see you next time. Bye!